Mammoth Cave National Park is in west central Kentucky.
Let's check out the longest known cave system in the world. Mammoth Cave National Park is a great spot to learn about the geology and the history of this region. The park covers a large area. With 53,000 acres, the on-site lodging is an appealing option.
On the Mammoth Cave entrance road is Cavers Camp Store and the Mammoth Cave Post Office. Nearby are 2 rail cars from the Mammoth Cave Railroad Company. The 9-mile track from Glasgow Junction to Mammoth Cave opened in 1886 and operated for 45 years.
For $3, tourists could go to several interesting stops. The Baldwin 042T dummy steam locomotive was named Hercules. It was a dummy because it was boxed up to look like a passenger streetcar.
Centrally located is the Mammoth Cave Visitor Center. Here you can purchase your admission to the tours, buy a souvenir, and learn more about the surrounding area. There is a model of Mammoth Cave. Displays show how sinkholes and water shaped the land, forming the caves below.
Exhibits demonstrate how limestone erosion created Mammoth Cave. Rain and rivers slowly dissolve the softer limestone, a process that continues to create new passages today. One section displays some history of Native American tribes.
A quarter-mile path near the Visitor Center leads to the historic entrance. Sandstone and shale layers can be seen along this path that make up the cap rock at the surface. The short walk is worth your time.
The historic entrance is the largest natural opening into Mammoth Cave. Early Native Americans first used this entrance 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. In the early 1800s, saltpeter mining was done here to harvest the principal ingredient in black powder. The hard work and poor conditions was mostly done by enslaved men.
By 1816, focus shifted to cave explorers and travelers from across the globe. Tours continue to this day. You can take the 65 steps down into the entrance. Water often flows from the top of the entrance.
We decided to take the Domes and Dripstones tour. This 2-hour tour highlights the science behind the formations. We waited for the bus ride in a shelter near the visitor center. Ranger Nicole welcomed us and informed us of the cave's rules, such as no flash photography.
All right, so is this anyone's first time to Mammoth Cave today? All right, welcome, welcome. Is this anyone's first time in a cave ever? Yes. All right, good luck. Just kidding, kind of. All right, so before we head on into the cave, I do have some more things to go over with you on my card here. Now this is more for resource protection, how we can preserve and protect the cave for future visitors to come. So just bear with me. Of course, no weapons, tobacco, e-cigarettes, vaping, selfie sticks, food or drink other than water, or if you have a medical issue like diabetic issues, just, just let us know if you need to do that. No child backpack carriers. You're gonna duck down, they're gonna go up and have a nice new souvenir to take home on their head, and we don't want that, right? So if you have those, just switch them to the front. Of course, stay on the trails today. Don't be climbing on the rocks, sitting on the rocks, anything like that. No parkour in the cave. We just want to make sure everybody stays safe today. Don't litter, of course. Whatever you take in the cave, be sure to bring it back out with you. Don't touch, write, or mark on any surfaces in the cave. I know that may sound a little weird, but we have oils and dirt in our skin and hands, so when we touch the cave, it actually stains it and it damages it over time. Now, have you all heard of white nose syndrome before? Yes. Some of you? Yeah. All right. Yeah, well, it is a bat fungus. It came here about 10 years ago, and it wiped out about 90% of some of our bats. So whenever we go back to the visitor center, we're going to drop you off at some nice squishy mats. We're going to ask you to walk over those, and we're going to cleanse your souls today. of your shoes. We're just trying to prevent the spread of that disease, so in case y'all go to another cave or mine in the near future, you won't be spreading it in there to those bats. So you get a free shoe cleaning today. Now, speaking of bats, in case you see any today, just admire it from afar, right? Don't try to pick it up, put it in your pocket, take it home with you. You know, we're going inside their homes today. They're trying to sleep, so we don't want to disturb them. Now, in case a bat comes in contact with you, after you get done screaming, just get a hold of me or Ranger Haley. We'll have some paperwork to go over with you about a little thing called rabies. Now, I don't mean to scare you. I don't know anyone that's happened to here, but I just have to let you know. Now, do y'all have any questions over that stuff? All right, you never do. All right, so if you all need a slower pace, if you'd like a slow, steady pace, you plan on taking some pictures, things like that, I invite you to come up front with me now before we head on down, because we're about to go down about 300 stairs. We're going to be single file, so that slow, steady pace will be up front with me. Are y'all ready to go? Yeah. All righty. This is all natural. Now, of course, we put in the floors and the benches, handrails and stuff, but they worked with that natural cave environment. They didn't blast any of that open. So, yeah, what you're seeing is all natural. All right, y'all watch your head here. Well, did you all get dripped on coming down those steps? Nope. Well, there is some water that gets in that entrance there, so that causes a little bit more humidity. But most of the cave, once you get on in, it's about 54, 55 degrees, and it'll stay that way year round. So if there's snow outside or a hot summer day, it's usually about 55. Yeah. And of course at that entrance too, that natural entrance, it's sucking in that air and blowing it back out when we don't have that at that entrance either. Now the deepest our cave goes that we know of is about 400 feet, where our river system is still flowing today, and it's still carving out more passages, so mark your calendars, a couple thousand years from now we'll have a new tour. But yeah, that's about the deepest part of our cave. Now the deepest you can go on a tour would be the river Styx, because you actually get to go and see that river. When y'all get down here, be sure you look up. Really awesome view. Got some fossils through here, some corals. Alright, y'all can come on in. Y'all can grab a seat. If you want to stay towards the front, get one of these front benches up here. What did you all think of our entrance? Did you expect a big metal door in the middle of the woods? Now, I don't know if you know this, that is not natural. That was created by a man named George Morrison. He's originally from Ohio. He came here to Kentucky in the early 1900s to try to strike rich with oil. But after many failed attempts, about 20 attempts of trying to strike rich with oil, he got nothing. He got the nickname Dry Hole George. So, you know, he's desperate for help. He's got this horrible nickname. Things aren't going good for him. His friends come up to him and tell him, George, the way to make money around here is not with oil. It's actually with caves. Now, here in Kentucky, whatever land you own, you actually own what's underneath that, all the way to the core of the earth. So he knew that, and so he bought him some land right outside the Mammoth Cave estate in hopes of trying to find his own portion of a cave. So he bought that land. He immediately started hiking through the hills and the valleys, trying to find any sign of a cave, until he got in a big bowl-shaped depression, what we were standing in before we entered the cave. Does anybody know what that's called?
Sinkhole.
The sinkhole, yeah, sinkhole. We have all kinds around here. Now, he knew that there was something going on underneath that, right? There was a void. He could feel some cool air coming out of the ground in that time of year. So he got out his favorite caving tool, dynamite, and he blasted open the hillside and made his entrance. And then he did what any brave caver would do. He got out some rope, he tied one end around a tree, got the other end, tied it around his nephew Earl, and told him to go see what's down there. So what took us about 20 minutes coming down those stairs, it took Earl about 2 weeks to get to this room here, which they called Grand Central Station, because of all the different passages that come in and out of this room here. You actually just came through the New York subway. But once they got to this room, you know, they're thrilled. They got the entrance of their cave that they wanted. Now they have a cave that they can actually tour through. And George noticed some signatures on the walls. So they knew they weren't the first people down here, right? They knew that they had made a connection into Mammoth Cave Estate. So he started his tours in the early 1920s, and he had to make sure that his tour was better than the other local caves around here. Because during that time, there was the Kentucky Cave Wars. All the local caves were competing against each other for business. So they had some tricks up their sleeves. George hired some men known as cappers. They would dress up as fake police officers. They would flag down traffic, and they would tell them, you know, where are you headed today? And they would say, oh, I'm gonna go take a tour at Mammoth Cave Estate today. Oh, don't go over there. Their entrance has collapsed. But don't worry, we have a new entrance. Come to our side of the cave. Or they would say, you know, I'm gonna go take a tour at Mammoth Cave. You don't want to do that. All their guides have tuberculosis, but we're all healthy, so come to our cave. So there were some ways that he got that business. Now he also let those cappers, those men, help explore the cave. You know, once they got down here, there wasn't this opening here. This was actually all natural breakdown here. And back in those days, you know, it was pretty common to, you know, smoke some cigars, smoke some cigarettes down here. And as they noticed that their smoke wasn't going where they come from. It was actually going up this way. So there was some airflow. So that was a good idea, you know, maybe there's some more cave back there. So he got out his favorite caving tool, dynamite, and blasted this open here, and they found more cave, what we're about to go see. But before we go, I would like to give you all some bragging rights. I want you all to be able to go home to your friends and family and say that you've seen all 426 miles of Mammoth Cave. And that's ranger talk for it's about to get dark. So I do need some help. If you have anything that displays light, if you have blinky shoes or a watch or a phone, camera, cover up that light for just a little bit and we'll experience the cave in its natural form. Does that sound good?
Good. Yeah.
Okay, are you sure? Okay. All righty. So cover up those lights. 3, 2, 1. You can put your hand in front of your face. Your brain will tell you it's there, but your eyes will never adjust down here. There's really only 2 places you can experience this kind of darkness. It would be in a cave, of course, and the deepest level of the ocean. Now, if y'all have any questions, raise your hand. I'll get to you. One at a time, please. No, well, see, of course, they had their ropes coming down. They probably bought all of the rope that Cave City had to offer as they were coming down here. But once he was developing his tours, he actually put in a wooden staircase. Now, you can imagine wood and water does not mix very well. Now there's stories that the tour guide, before the tour started, they'd come through with a stick, they'd poke each step to make sure it was okay. And if it was a little wobbly, they'd just flip it over and call it a good day. So thankfully, we don't have those wooden steps anymore. It actually took us a while to get someone to work with the natural cave to put in those stairs. Everyone wanted to blast it open, but we wanted to keep it as it is, right? So we actually found someone who put stairs on submarines. So they were used to those narrow and tight spaces. So yeah. Yeah, any questions before we head on and see more cave? Yeah. Yeah.
So when did the Park Service take it over from the guy who blew up?
From George? They got in, it would have been about late 30s when they started to try to get all this land together to make us a national park, which was 1941. He sold this cave. It was around $290,000 in that time, so that's around $4, maybe $5 million today. So he lucked out. Alrighty. So if you would like a slower pace, you can come up front with me now. We'll head on to our next stop.
The writing on the walls, is it just random people signing their names or anything significant?
You are going to see some historic graffiti, and that basically means if there's writing before 1941 when we were a national park, it was actually okay. They would tip their tour guide to be a part of a cave, kind of like a registry, but anything after 1941, that's a federal offense. So Yeah. So this is all from where the cave was trying to stabilize itself after the water had left. Yeah, you're exactly right.
What happened when their lantern or candle burned out?
They probably got really scared. But of course they probably had some backups with them maybe. And of course, you know, George probably heard them and would pull them back up, things like that. But yeah, it was a lot different than nowadays. We have it made today. We have handrails and electric lights. We even have a phone system down here in case there's any emergencies. We can call up to the surface. So yeah, things have really changed. We call this room fairy ceiling because of what's right above you up here. Does anybody know what these are called?
Dripstones.
Stalagmites.
Stalactites.
Yeah, there it is. I know it sounds kind of familiar. We do have stalactites, stalagmites. Now these are stalactites. A way I like to remember that name, stalactites, they hang tight to the ceiling. And stalagmites, they grow up from the ground and you might trip over them. So there's some little tricks you can have to remember those names. But when George and his crew got into this room, you know, they were thrilled because they knew that they had something that Mammoth Cave didn't have, which was those formations. Has anyone took a tour on the historic side of Mammoth Cave? Yeah, and you probably didn't see any formations, did you? Yeah.
Flowstone.
Yeah, there's a little bit of flowstone in there. But yeah, now to understand why we're getting to see them here and you don't get to see them in most of Mammoth Cave, we're gonna have to talk a little geology. We're gonna have to go back in time a little bit. About 350 million years ago, this part of the world was under the equator and under an ancient shallow sea, kind of like the Caribbean today. And of course in your sea you have all your little creatures like snails and fish, corals, some sharks even. And when those creatures die, all the hard parts of their body, right, the calcium based parts, like their teeth and their skeletons, that all floats to the bottom of the ocean. And you know, over time and pressure, it's all compact together to make what we're seeing here, this type of rock. Does anybody know what kind of rock this is? Limestone, yeah. So you're now professional geologists. The world's longest cave, 99.999% of it is limestone. That's all you're seeing inside of here. Fast forward in time a little bit, again, that, you know, the continents shift, they drift and they move, and then we were basically an ancient river delta. And at that delta, you know, it's spitting out sediment, sand, and silt. And again, that's all compacted together layer by layer. And it made basically a cap of sandstone and shell over top of this limestone. So that's basically a huge roof over the cave. And that sheds water, right? Just like your roof on your homes. It protects you and it doesn't allow any of that water to get in that rain. So what we're seeing here, there was a crack in that roof. It allowed the water to come through, seep in and erode away that limestone. Then basically it just redeposits it and makes all kinds of shapes and formations like we're seeing there. And that's actually what makes us the world's longest cave, is because we have that sandstone roof. If we didn't have that, instead of being one 426-mile cave, we'd probably have 426 one-mile caves. So with that roof, it doesn't allow breakdown in to make different passages. Now, of course, you all may be wondering, what's up with the ceiling here, right? Kind of looks a little fake, looks a little man-made, but this is all natural. So, like I said, all that limestone, it's made in layers. So, if you look at the walls here, you can see all those different lines, kind of like pancakes stacked on top of each other here. So what you're seeing here is just a bottom layer of that limestone. If you all look behind you at that passageway, you can tell that the ceiling or the walls are a lot closer together than at the top than they are at the bottom. So it made basically an arch in here, which is one of the most stable structures in nature. So if you're wondering, you know, when did these rocks fall? It was a long time ago. So don't worry. I'd probably be wearing a different hat if that was any question down here. Ready to go see more cave? All right, let's go.
Do you ever do concerts in here?
Oh yeah. So it won't be in this section, but the historic section of the cave, we do every once in a while. We do have people come in. I know every Sunday, the first Sunday in December, we have a cave sing, and we have a choir come down and they sing Christmas songs and things like that. It's really cool. It kind of amplifies throughout the cave. If you can, I highly recommend you come and check that out. Yeah. All right, so you all are probably wondering where are all the pretty stuff, the stalactites, stalagmites, all the formations. Well, we're about to go see it. So we're about to get to the frozen Niagara portion of our tour. And I just want to remind you all not to touch this part of the cave, especially this part. You know, we have active growing formations and we don't want to stunt their growth. But we do have an optional side trip for you once we get up here. There's going to be a little fork in the road, a little gate, and there's going to be water trickling down from the ceiling. And at that point, if you want to take our optional trip, it's about 49 steps down into a place we call the drapery room. It's actually underneath that frozen Niagara formation. But once you get to the bottom, those 49 optional stairs magically turn into 49 mandatory stairs. So if you're up for about another 100 stairs on your tour today, you can follow me down. We can check out that room. You can soak it in, get you some pictures. Then we'll just make our way up and out of the cave. If you're not up for another 100 stairs, don't worry. You're still going to see those formations. You're still going to see the frozen Niagara. And you can just hang out at that little gate, and I'll just pick you up on our way out of the cave. Does that sound good? Mm-hmm. Alrighty, awesome. All right, so if y'all want to go down to the drapery room, you can follow me to the left. When y'all get down here, be sure to look up. You can kind of tell how the water is coming in, how it's swirling around. You can really use your imagination down here too. Make some things out. Kind of looks like melted wax or icing on a cake, things like that.
Flowstone formations can be created when water flows along the cave's walls or floor. Sheet-like layers of calcium carbonate or calcite are deposited over time. Initially, the flowstone takes on the shape of the surface it is formed on, but the shapes become more rounded with additional deposits.
As the deposits begin to overhang portions of the wall, they are called draperies or curtains. This section of the cave has many travertine flowstones. Firmly bedded along the slope, these deposits often appear wavy.
The flowstone is usually white and somewhat translucent. The mineral composition of the water can alter the color. Beige or brownish layers can indicate the presence of iron impurities.
There is only 1 inch of growth every 100 years. A single touch can halt that growth, so keep your grubby hands to yourself.
Back at the top of the stairs, there are additional formations to see. A big thank you to our knowledgeable tour guides.
Thank you all for coming out, spending a couple hours with us. Out of 426 miles, we got to see about a mile, so we got to see a little bit of the cave, but I always recommend, if you can, come back and take some other tours here. This cave is so massive and so unique. You can take another tour and you'll see completely different passages than what you've seen today. But on behalf of myself, my good friend and trailing ranger Haley, Mammoth Cave National Park, and the Park Service, thank you all so much for coming out. Oh, thank you.
We would have to agree. Mammoth Cave's other tours are great as well. Speaking of tours, you might like this underground tour.